spring? What are the next steps for him that you see?
I mean, the next steps for him is, for one, is just still fine tuning from a route running standpoint. Challenging him to be, step out of his comfort zone. I need him to lead, come and lead the room. Also just, playing fast, being a playmaker, being that guy that we know on third down, the rock's coming to you. You gotta get open, man. And having that mindset, and he checks all those boxes. Right now, just getting the game, continually get the game to slow down for him, so he's understanding, what's happening on the back end. The more you understand it, the slower the game appears to you as a wideout. So we're constantly pushing that right now, and I think, with him, man, the sky's the limit for his game, man. I mean, he can do a whole bunch of stuff.
How different is it working with him a year into it now? We got him, he's young, he's obviously gifted, but now he's got some seasoning to him a little bit.
I think one of the biggest differences is now maybe the questions that he asks are a little more football, a little higher level from a football education standpoint, which, sometimes you'll ask a question, I'll look, but, did you really just ask that? But, so that lets me know that he's understanding what's going on the backside now, the things that he needs to do to get open from a tempo standpoint, just being a student of the game, being more of a student of the game.
How and why did he and Aiden connect? I mean, you've been through this with, you got to connect with QB1. What did you notice in their connection, maybe last year, and how it's progressed?
I think, that connection with a quarterback and a QB really starts off, a little bit of it starts off the field, and then just confidence from what you do on the practice field. One thing about Nick, when he first got here, he understood where he was from a depth chart standpoint. He studied, came out to practice every single day and worked his tail off, and everything he got, he earned, he won, and he made plays out back. But some other guys didn't make it at that point in time, and that just bred confidence. And quarterback sees the guys making plays, he's gonna continue to feed him, in tough situations. And the kid came up with plays, and we're on to the next level now.
How did Rodney Bullard come under your radar? Because I know Valdosta State's not the biggest school, but how did he pop on your radar?
Obviously, he had a great year, put up some tremendous numbers, and he was pointed out to me actually by Coach Flugard. He's like, Hawk, man, there's this kid at Valparaiso we need to take a look at. And, broke him down. Like, hey, man, I like how he moves. I like, and gave him a call, and we got him up here, and he's a Spartan now. So, obviously we did our homework on him. He's a great kid, man. He's a great kid. He's a great kid from the standpoint of academically, just off the charts. He's a kid that, is working hard to learn the entire offense. Excited to have him, man. He's a tremendous playmaker.
What kind of spring has Alante had? When we were talking to him, it seems like he's a guy that really wants to have a year to finally sort of put together,
Yeah.
You noticing that from him?
Yeah, he's been good. He's been working hard, and obviously he has some leadership skills. Been one of the leaders in our room, but actually one of the leaders on the team. Comes out every single day. He's got a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he has something to prove, and he's made some plays this spring. I'm excited about what happens, what this leads to, in the fall. But he's been everything up to this point, everything that we need from a receiver room standpoint and an offense.
Evan Boyd making the jump from MAC football to Big Ten. What have you seen from him this spring?
Evan has had a really good spring. He's come out, he's made some plays, plays faster than maybe we saw on tape. One thing about it, he is a football junkie, and I really like that about him. I mean, straight up gym rat, just calling me in the evenings. He's on cones when everybody else is maybe at home playing the game. So he wants to be great, and he's putting in the work, and he's made some nice plays this spring, and can't wait to see what happens in the fall.
How much stock do you put in with spring ball, like there's a whole lot of time until the season, and guys are going to go on their way and work individually, and there's so much time until fall camp. But how much does spring ball inform you about where your room is at, or maybe what you guys need to work on as a room?
Spring ball is one of the times where we actually get to focus solely on fundamental and technical training. I think the guys, between the coaches and the players, they get a sense of, what their deficiencies are. And we harp on them during spring, and then from here, it'll be, we'll kind of put it in their lap a little bit, during the summer to make sure that they're working on the things that's been pointed out. But at this level and with the guys that we have, they want to be great. They want to play on Sunday, so they're listening. They see other guys that have come through here and listened and are playing on Sunday. So, I got my hooks on.
As a receiver yourself, what have you seen with Aiden? And maybe when he arrived last year to now, and some of the progress that he's made, how does he make life for your room easier? Is he making life for your room easier? I guess it's probably the first question.
Yeah, no question. For any quarterback, coming from a different conference and then coming into the Big Ten, we went through one heck of a stretch last year. Nobody talks about it, but it was kind of here's an introduction to the Big Ten. And I think from there, he has grown by leaps and bounds. I'd say the last 6 weeks of the season, you can see his progression. And I think he figured out, what he needs to do, how he needs to approach studying, how he needs to treat his body, how he needs to get out and, lead more. So there's bits and pieces that I know for a fact he's learned about himself, and he's been applying them. And he's been great this spring. Thrown some nice balls, shown some good leadership skills, and our offense, it goes as he goes, and I think he realizes that, and he's studying his tail off. He's got a chip on his shoulder too. Because nobody wanted to be home in December. It was great to be with our families, but not really.
That permeates top down too, right? When you got the quarterback saying not satisfied, that kind of
that talks to the whole offense.
Yeah.
That's been the pulse of every single room. Everybody in each room working to get better, and then we'll be a better team, come this fall.
Thanks, Coach. We gotta get going. So we got 3 assistants today.